Chef Alex Askew, and welcome to another edition of Stirring the Pot, conversations around food, race, and social justice. We have a special guest today that's going to be doing two parts of this episode of Stirring the Pot with us. And we are delighted and honored to have Cassandra Lifblin on with us today. And she is a food writer, a recipe developer, an armchair food anthropologist. We're going to get into that. And she reports on food and culture around the world and guides home cooks in creating inspired meals. And she helps farmers, young chefs share their food histories. So welcome, Cassandra, Chef Cassandra.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for being part of Stirring the Pot, conversations around food, race, and social justice, sponsored by BCA Global. Hope you're well.
I am. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Could you start out by telling our audience what is your personal mission statement, so they can get a chance to get to know who you are?
So, my personal mission statement is to address food injustice with empathy, trust, and care through principles of mindfulness.
Mm.
So, it's really about approaching people where they are and really taking time to understand what their needs are and where they may be in their thought process or their journey.
Mhm. That's great. Now, this is a touchy subject. It seems like racial equity is back on the menu. So tell our audience from your perspective why food, race, and social justice now in the conversation.
So, when people gather in the kitchen, it's more than just a room in your home or a functional space. It's a really deeply rewarding opportunity for people to create and connect to each other through food. So, what I think about when I think about the future and our world is that we can work with families and communities to help build a young generation that are change agents through community and food, because once you cook together, once you grow food together, once you develop your expectations for what community is, you can move forward.
That's so true. Now you do some interesting work, and I think you're one of the um, first chefs that does recipe development. And so there is, in your space, a huge push for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Can you tell our audience how your work fits into that equation?
Yes. So at I work for America's Test Kitchen, and we have a huge diversity initiative. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that we had this initiative well before George Floyd. This was a conversation that has been ongoing throughout the company for years.
Mhm.
One of the reasons we don't have a lot of diversity, to be very honest, is it's a good company to work for and people don't leave. So either the people have to move up and out, for a position to become available, or the company has to continue to grow.
Mhm.
The company's 25 years old. So what we have done is we've made it a point to hire diverse writers, diverse editors, diverse recipe testers, diverse recipe developers like myself, so that we create cookbooks and set a tone and a culture for cooking and home cooking that is inclusive and represents everyone.
Wow, that's incredible work. And your company should be applauded for taking that initiative and moving it forward. That's definitely an area that is something to be focused on, that's expanding and very valuable right now. You know, I have to tell our audience you were selected as one of the 12 finalists and awarded the 2021 uh, Mindful Eating for the Beloved Community International Fellowship. So, congratulations on that
Thank
honor.
you.
Could you please tell our audience? I know we're still a couple of months from graduation, but what this experience feels like in a fellowship capacity, focused on deep, immersive, intensive. I know I hear how intense the course is. Well, I co-designed it, so I could expect anything else. But tell our audience like what this experience has been like, and if you could, help the audience understand why moving past the comfortable into the uncomfortable space of learning all the different aspects around the food system space. If you could kind of unpack that a little bit, so our audience can kind of feel what you're feeling in your shoes.
Okay, well, first I'll start by saying, and I don't think you know this, in January of 2020, I had applied for another fellowship program. I've been researching and looking for a fellowship program at this particular one for years and felt like I was ready, had done my research, had a project in mind, and I was not accepted into the program.
Mhm.
Understandable, because hundreds of people, thousands of people, I'm sure, applied, but I was livid because I felt that was my one opportunity to get information, to be trained, and to understand what happens on a national scale, what happens in the food system, what happens on Capitol Hill, how does this work, and how can we improve it? So when this program came along, I was very excited, and it has far surpassed my expectations, and I know it is more than I would have gotten in this other program. And when I say that, when we meet as a class, when we do our readings, we really question what is really happening. It's beyond the news, it's beyond reports. We look at the information, then we look at what's happening on the ground in the communities that we serve. And we question, why does the research not match up with what we see happening in our communities? Who is doing that research? And why are they missing something that's obvious? And in the case of where I live, in the census tract where I live, when I did the first part of the research assignment, the research lines up with what I see. So now my question is, there is no grocery store in this community. Why are you not doing anything about it? Who are the people that we need to speak to get the ball rolling? So it's not that there's lack of information. They know exactly what's happening in this community, but nothing's being done. So it's
Yeah,
really a great way to investigate and to question, and to, once you start questioning, you see who the decision makers are. Once you see who the decision makers are, you start to look for the motivation behind their decisions. And then you can develop a plan, which
Mhm.
we have not gotten into that part yet, but I know you've spoken on it several times,
Right.
where we can start to develop a plan to create sustainable change.
Right. That's so spot on. So many people, and again, this is part of the goal of this fellowship is problem solving, right? And so many
Right.
times in our communities, especially communities of color, we're just hammered with all the different problems that people point out, but it doesn't seem like we have the same amount of coalition or think tank or energy behind solving the problem. And so, it's almost like we take a really good stab at trying to solve the problem over and over again, and then we still get the same result. And it's not without effort. It's just the strategies that we're using aren't working. And so we
Agreed.
need to arm ourselves with data. We need to understand the root causes of these problems and issues that have been systemic and are in part based on the construct of systemic racism. And then we can disrupt and find ways to build a collective and convergence on how we can actually redefine that narrative and move forward. So thank you so much for that. Let me ask you, would you stay for another episode? And I'd be honored to have you for another segment of Stirring the Pot, if you would like to stay on and do another segment with me. How about that?
Absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
so I'll give a little bit of a tease. We're going to come right back, and we're going to actually, Chef Cassandra is going to actually paint a picture of where she's at, what it looks like, what it smells like, what maybe it even tastes like, and be able to paint this beautiful canvas for us to really get an understand of what her surroundings are like and how she's navigating those surroundings. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with another episode of Stirring the Pot, Part 2 with Chef Cassandra. Thank you very much.